there's the new Black Panther show you probably haven't heard of, and it's really good. Now, a lot of the times people on YouTube like to sensationalize titles, openings of videos, like, oh, this is something you missed, you could never have seen this detail, and it's like, well, I watched the thing, of course it's a detailer. Yeah, no, that's something everybody's talking about. Genuinely, this weekend, I talked to several people who are into Marvel stuff and had no idea the show exists. And on one hand, it's like, hey, Marvel, advertise your show better, but on the other hand, it's like, hey, everybody, there's 4 episodes of a nice little surprise waiting for you on Disney+, so I'm going to tell you about it very, very high level. I'm not going to spoil it. There are spoilers. There's things that this could spoil. However, this is an anthology series. It's very much set separately from the rest of the events of the MCU. So, like, I guess technically there are certain characters who could pop up because they're like Eternals have been around forever, or like Mephisto. How long has he been in the MCU? I guess since the beginning. Oh, also Mortimer, my cat, is here. He loves this show because it's about cats. It's about Black Panther. He loves the Black Panther. And the lion, he's kind of a lion too, so he would have trouble deciding what side to be on. Okay, so here's the show, because I don't think I've named it yet. It's called Eyes of Wakanda. It is an animated anthology show. You may remember hearing about it, like maybe you've seen the trailer, maybe you remember hearing about the announcement a couple of years ago. This is something that has been in the works for a little while, and there's been rumblings that there is a Wakanda-focused show being created in the MCU, but that's all we knew, and it seemed like there might be a show about like the first Black Panther, or maybe it was a show about Okoye, or a show about the Dora Milaje. We didn't know. And this is kind of about all of those things, although it is about a very specific part of Wakanda and a very specific part of the Black Panther lore. Although, as I'm sure you'd expect, the Dora Milaje do show up. I will say, it does not take place in the present day, so don't expect to see like any of the characters we're familiar with from the current Black Panther movies, but like the concepts in Black Panther, those do show up here, and there are certain things that you maybe will recognize from the show. Anyway, so here's the very simple pitch for this show. It's about a group of people in Wakanda that are essentially the spies of Wakanda. They're called the War Dogs. I believe formally they're called something like the Hattusaraze. Although, like, War Dogs is what they've been called in the previous Black Panther movies. Nakia was a war dog. Killmonger's father was a war dog. And they're spies out in the world protecting Wakanda's interests. Now, this series specifically focuses on 4 different stories. They each take place in different time periods, and like time periods and locations that you may be familiar with because of history, and each focuses on a war dog trying to recover or collect a different Wakandan artifact or weapon, usually made of vibranium, partially because they might be dangerous and partially because they may expose Wakanda to the wider world, because as we know, up until the events of Black Panther, Wakanda has been completely secret. So you're like, how did they remain secret? And this is how. So the series was directed by John Fang and Todd Harris. Harris worked as a storyboard artist on a lot of the recent-ish Marvel things, starting around the time of Black Panther specifically, and he pitched this series to Coogler, and then Ryan Coogler liked it and got this made. You've seen Ryan Coogler a little bit advertising this, and like the same way with Ironheart, I feel like Marvel wants to remind people that the guy that everyone liked for that Sinners movie, people really liked earlier this year, he did these too, kind of. And they don't feel like productions that are just trading on his name or like that he's someone involved in. And especially this feels like it's in the spirit of the Black Panther movie and the history set up in Black Panther. 2 episodes are written by Mark Bernardine, who wrote the Gentleman Ghost episode of Batman the Caped Crusader, and 2 are written by Jeffrey Thorne, who, among other things, wrote a Black Panther podcast that starred William Jackson Harper as the narrator, and I've never heard of this thing before, so this apparently also exists. Maybe I'll listen to it. Like, it's a narrative podcast, I think. That's what it seems like. There are some voice actors that you may be familiar with. Cress Williams, who played Black Lightning on the Black Lightning show. He voices a character in the 1st episode. Steve Toussaint, who played Corus Valerian in the House of the Dragon show. He is in the 4th episode. And then also Anika Noni Rose, who was Princess Tiana in The Princess and the Frog, is in the 4th episode. There's a lot of other people that you may recognize. There are obviously other people, and the voice cast for the show is good, but those are the ones that I feel like people will probably be familiar with from other similar work. Oh, speaking of the people involved with this show, the IMDb page for this show is terrible. I've never seen an IMDb page that does this. Because this is a series and an anthology, most of the main characters are only in 1 episode. I think that's true of almost all of them. There's like a flashback or 2 to a previous episode. However, the crew is listed in order of appearance, which means a lot of the actors that did miscellaneous roles, maybe read a few lines in 1 episode, another episode, they're all listed first, and that is not a good way to list that information, IMDb. We talk a lot on my podcast, mostly nitpicking, about how sometimes it seems like the IMDb summaries were sometimes written by a bunch of frogs with crayons taped to their legs, just like running around, because they seem like they're so off what the movie actually is. And sometimes I guess they design the pages too. The show has music by Hesham Nazi, who was the person who did the music for Moon Knight. I would say it sounds very similar to Black Panther. The big draws for this show, I'd say there's three. One is the art. It's gorgeous. The colors are really vibrant and cool. I think the character designs are really interesting. And then, in that same vein, the second thing that is really good about the show, the fight choreography is cool. Specifically, I'll say the third episode maybe as my favorite fight choreography, but this is a very kinetic show. Characters are jumping around, doing flips, using all kinds of special weaponry. It's pretty cool. It's more violent than I'd expect. It's not like super violent. You're not seeing like characters, getting their entrails ripped out, but there's some people who take like an axe to the head, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think they'd show that. I think they also get pretty creative with how these characters would use some of these special weapons in the middle of battle. So specifically like the vibranium weapons that all kind of do different things, although they more or less do the same thing. There's a lot of care that's put into the setting, specifically like the design of buildings and ships and things like that. I think episode 1 probably has the most interesting story. I would say episode 2 overall has the most fun setting and does the most fun things with that setting. And specifically, if you are familiar with that period and what's going on there, that makes that one a little bit more rewarding. Episode 3, best action choreography. I will explain why in the very, very brief spoiler segment. Episode 4 I liked, and episode 4 does cool stuff, but it's not really worth getting into it now. Like, just go watch the show. There's only 4 episodes. I doubt they'll make a second season of this, which is fine. It does tell a story, like all 4 episodes tell the story of how these artifacts got into the world, and then how specific ones were recovered, and why that was important. I think the characters, even if they don't all go on this journey, but there is an arc over the course of the 4 episodes of like why recovering them is important, how that maybe causes problems, and then forcing characters to make difficult decisions based on the relationships that they've developed to find those artifacts. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away here. I will say, I'm going to talk about one spoiler for like 1 second. That's something that's been teased in most of the trailers and also in a lot of the marketing for the show, because I think they know Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, comic fans, their ears will perk up when they hear about this. But spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1. The 3rd episode introduces an Iron Fist, obviously, because this show is set far in the past. The Iron Fist is not Daniel Rand or Orson Randall or any of the Iron Fists that we'd be familiar with. It is I believe, new character. And I think this character is cool. I think this is why episode 3 has the strongest fight choreography. We've seen by this point how a lot of the Wakandan spies fight and how other people fight, but the Iron Fist has to be pretty different. And I like the design of the Iron Fist. I hope we see more Iron Fist. It doesn't have to be Danny Rand. It doesn't have to be Finn Jones, but just do something. Any other Iron Fist. I don't really care. Or just recast him. But like the idea of a martial arts hero who just shows up out of nowhere, does a fight to protect something, some sort of like civilization or, fighting the hand. Like that is cool. And I guess Shang-Chi can kind of fill that role. But something about Iron Fist feels more like he's just out doing missions and stuff. Because like in the comics, a lot of the time Shang-Chi is tied up in like the warring factions surrounding like his father and his empire and maybe his brothers or sisters, because there's a bunch of other kids out there, I think. I'm pretty sure. It's been a little while since I read a modern Shang-Chi comic, although he was just on the Thunderbolts or something. I don't know what's going on. But either way, I like watching characters do cool choreographed fight scenes, and this episode had good ones. But so that's the end of the spoilers. The big question, is this like the best Marvel Disney show? I don't know, probably not. It's good, it's solid, it's a little short, I wish it was longer, and, it doesn't have the X-Men in it, and that's a big way for me to automatically be on board with something. I think X-Men 97 is my favorite so far, but I would understand if this was someone's favorite, or, Spider-Man. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Like, stylistically, I like that even though these things do exist in the same universe, kind of, they all look very different. And like that they give creatives the freedom to do that. Seems like something DC is also doing with like Creature Commandos and also that Dynamic Duo movie or whatever, if that gets made. So yeah, I would say watch it. Just go watch it. It's going to take you, as long as it would take to watch a movie, it is cool. You can watch it obviously all in one sitting. And I think it does tell a somewhat concise story. It's funny. The different main characters do have personality, and like they feel very different from one another. Like sometimes they play with archetypes, like the cool guy who doesn't take things as seriously as the other. But like you kind of got to write a little bit of this broadly so that we are on board with all these characters, and it can be set up over the course of 30 minutes. Get this whole arc, and then we can be done with them. But yeah, it's good. You know what else is good? Nebula. And obviously, yes, the character Nebula is very exciting, but I'm actually talking about the subscription streaming service that I and a bunch of my YouTube friends helped to create. And basically the pitch for my channel on Nebula, all my videos go up early and ad-free on Nebula. So like this video, you're watching it right now, it was on Nebula just maybe like a couple hours before it went live. But like my next video on my Nandovia Movies channel, which is what was Phase 5 about, that's going to be up probably like a couple weeks early. So like you get access to the videos early, ad-free. Lots of other YouTubers you already like, some of them who talk about comics and movies and stuff like that, are already on this platform. You got Patrick Willems, Captain Midnight, Princess Weeks, just added Shea Frillis Productions, who I love, obviously, and we're always adding more. Then we also have originals that we do. These like really high quality productions. Sometimes they're like videos. We've done documentaries. We did a play once. We're doing a series soon that is a scripted drama. It's an anthology in the vein of Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, but instead of being about science fiction stuff, it's about complicated human relationships that take place in New York City. And one of the episodes, called Power Trip, was written by me, and Patrick Willems directed it. And I've been updating you guys in these little bits at the end of the videos as like the production's gone on. So we filmed it and it looks incredible. The actors like blew me away, but you will see it and you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't have anything I can share right now, but trust me, when that comes up, you'll see it. And I hope we make behind the scenes things so you can see how we made it, because that part is also so cool. So that'll be out sometime in the near future. Can't say exactly when. Until then, you can watch, we just put out a series called Amy's Dead End Dream House by and starring Maggie Mayfish, with a bunch of people playing the weird puppet guys, because it's kind of like a Pee-wee's Playhouse thing. One of them being Paul F. Tompkins. That's really cool. And it's very fun. And again, it has the feel of one of those children's shows, but for adults about adult problems. And that is very cool. And we're putting new episodes of that out weekly on Nebula as well. And the best part is a yearly subscription to Nebula is a steal at $60 a year, it's $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get Nebula for just $36 a year. That is $3 a month. It is an incredible deal. Go check it out. Thank you for listening. So thank you everybody for watching. That's all I got. Stay safe.